all in accordance with divine timing, and
Yeah.
things will happen when
You
they're
can
meant to
blame that one.
happen.
We'll let you. You can blame that one.
Yeah, I mean, if it doesn't, I mean, if I show up at a certain time or whatever, then it's divine timing. And
Yeah.
if I gotta kind of make it work to be on time for, say, the computer's sake, well, then again, we'll make it work.
We'll let you
So, yes, we are officially live.
on. Okay.
Thank you, Pamela. First of all, I just want to thank you again for joining me. And so I am just going to start a little bit of a intro while people tune in and start streaming in and join the live.
Yeah.
Um, but initially, I want to take a moment to thank and welcome everybody for joining today. This is the first episode. Should I say episode? It's
Yeah.
the first installment of my new Soul Seeker series, where I'll be taking some time to connect with new light workers, spiritual caregivers, thought leaders, people who just inspire, who just feel good, who bring that positive essence, that positive vibe, that positive message that we all could use to feed our souls, to enlighten our journeys, to light our path. So, with that, this is the official Soul Seeker series, episode number one, I suppose. And I want to thank you all for who are tuning in on Facebook, who's joining on YouTube. My guest for today is the amazing Pamela Carter,
Oh my
the
God.
founder and spearheader of the White Feather Reiki and Healing Arts movement. I will definitely be posting and sharing her link after this more, just so for whoever may not be familiar, you'll be able to find her stuff. But Pamela, I want to thank you for joining me and allow you to say hello to those of us who are joining today at this time.
Hello. I can already
Woohoo!
see the guys coming on. Hi, Elle. Hi, Lynn. Hi, Ada. Okay, so thank you, Zay.
Thank
This is
you.
like a huge honour to be, on your series. Honestly, as the first guest, I'm so excited. Like talking about vibes, the vibes have been like this all
Yes.
day.
I'm sorry. Give me just a moment. There we
Yeah,
go. I
I can
apologize.
hear
That was weird.
myself. That's really funny. Yeah, so the vibes are already going like this today. So exciting.
Mhm. Yes, it
You can
is.
feel it.
So it was so funny that you really helped kind of start this series. So I'm gonna just admit this candidly to everybody because we were somewhat brainstorming together about what our next collab was going to be. I invited Pamela on my page because I wanted to kind of share her out to people who hang out with us over here, as she has shared me in the past. But we were thinking about what to do. I wanted to do something a little bit different because I know we're always doing lives, we're doing readings, but I also like to give to the community in other ways that is engaging, such as great conversations, dialogues, teachings, whatever. So, coming up with the concept for this particular live and what we wanted to do, this whole series unfolded. Where I was like, I would really love to do this for just a continual thing. So, the fact that now we are here, we're talking about vibes, which I think is a cornerstone of our friendship, of our connection, of how we started building. A lot of that started in that vibrational space. And so that is one of the big things that came through the other day while I was like, okay, what are we gonna do? And then my guys just hit me in my gut all of a sudden. Vibrations, because we always talk around this and we talk about this, and it's just like especially even with what you do as a shamanic Reiki practitioner. I mean, you're just all about vibrations and that energy essence. And so who better to talk that out with and share those insights than you, who I have this connection that's very much based on the vibe, that initial vibe that we got. So
Same.
again, thank you for joining me here, but I am super excited to kind of dive in with you.
Me too. Uh,
Beautiful. Courtney, L, Ada, I want to thank you all for coming through, for hanging out. If you can, please feel free to share out. while we are chatting away. Drop your comments, leave your thoughts and insights as we go. This is a conversation for all who are here, even if you're not on camera. um,
Yes.
but yeah, so diving in
Okay.
initially, I'm curious as to how you work with the vibe when it comes to the work that you do. When you work with your clients, when you're picking up doing readings, I know we all have a different connection and interpretation of energy. What how does it come through for you when you're doing your cool stuff? Because you're amazing. And
Oh,
so
thank you. So for me, vibes are everything. There's a
mm,
frequency and vibe in absolutely everything that you can even think of. And
mhm,
I think even from a young age, it's something that just I could always feel. So it's a feeling for me that starts off. So depending on what it is, so we'll just give a person as an example because it's not just people, it's animals,
mhm,
plants, trees, everything has a vibe, everything has an energy frequency. But if we're
mhm.
talking about people, um, like now I'm at a point where I know exactly what that person needs without them even opening their mouth
Mhm.
because of how long I've been working with energy and working with
Mhm.
people, especially in the healing aspect. So you can hear it in their voice, you can feel it from the essence, what they give off when they talk to you, the words
Mhm.
they use. You know, it's everything all
Mhm.
encompassing in that person will talk
Yes.
to you. So it's not what they always what they say, it's what they don't say and the feeling that you get. So
Right.
everything is like everything all in one. So I kind of, and then on top of that, I have my guides. So you've got your own intuition.
Right.
That's okay. I always say there's vibes, then there's intuition, then there's discernment. So those
Mhm.
three things work together for you to determine what the energy is trying to say to you.
Mhm.
So your intuition's like your muscle, your tool that you use, and discernment is your ability to understand and decipher what that is and what it means. And then you
Right.
have a choice after that. So all those
Yes.
things are what encompass a vibe for me.
Yes. So I love that because the way you describe it is very much like I'm sorry, that's weird. The way you describe it is very much like it's a process in a
Yeah.
sense where a lot of people will see vibes and think of it as just the that initial impact, like that initial uh and that
Feeling.
that initial interaction, but not bring it home, right? So the way you describe it as a process, you get this full complete picture that the vibe is not just initially what you get, but it's how you take it and perceive it and actually do the work to interpret it.
And what
And
it's
I think that
telling
is such
you.
an important thing because we were talking about this the other day. This is where concepts like discernment become so important, right? And then even up into alignment, where we're talking about becoming aligned in our authenticity and becoming aligned with source and these things. But starting initially with just coming into a particular experience, a trigger, whatever the case may be, that gives you that little impulse. That's like the initial feeling of it, but until you take the time to be mindful about it, until you take the time to
Yes.
internalize and process it,
Yeah.
you're getting an incomplete picture. You're not getting the actual message or information that vibe, that energy contained for you. And
Yeah.
so I think that's very important the way in your description of how you just broke it down. Like you get the whole process as
Yeah.
opposed to just, oh yeah, whenever I just encounter this energy, which I think a lot of people think of it just as that.
Mm. Yeah. It's always telling you something.
Mm,
So it's the process, what helps people understand how to interpret it that really helps. That I found when I work with people, it really helps
yes,
breaking it down to understand it.
yes. So there's that initial encounter with the energy, and because all things hold an energy. That's, I think, you initially even started your breakdown was that all things carry a specific vibration.
Yeah.
um those things hold energy, but then there's a process that we need to go undergo when we encounter that energy for us to really discern and integrate what's there for us, whatever the lesson is, whatever that particular vibe is offering to us. And so I love that breakdown. And I love how you started it with the initial thought that all things do carry energy, which brings me to my next question about, what about inanimate objects, right? Because I can hear my son talking to me right now watching this, and it's like, what about my video games, or what about the car, or what about these, even just the stones or the mountains, with regards to that?
Everything's the same. So this is where I feel like the empath intuition comes in. So it's like, I call it a muscle. So
Yes.
to start with, you might only like feel certain things, or you can ignore it. Like, oh, like, but the more you listen, the more you hear, the more
Hmm.
you use it, the more comes to you, like that muscle. So
Right. Right.
before, I'd only used to be able to feel the energy from the trees. I've always been able to do that.
Hmm.
Whereas now I can actually hear them too. So I think once you start allowing yourself to open up to the
Yes.
fact that a tree can talk to you,
Yes.
it's that allowance and being aware, it's the being aware, consciously aware of the fact that it can talk to you.
Hmm.
Even when you do
Absolutely.
that, go everybody just try that. I can guarantee that you'll hear something.
That is absolutely, especially because I think to the level of trees, there's life there.
Yeah,
And that like all things, all living things definitely give off a vibration, but the vibration of living things is a bit different from the vibration of
yeah,
non-living things or
yeah,
inanimate things. And that is me saying that inanimate things or non-living things do carry vibration as
yeah,
well, right? Like, we pick
yeah,
up stones, we pick up
yeah,
crystals, oh my gosh, I can feel that
yeah,
in my hand.
yeah.
And you would not say that it's a living thing, but the vibration of the tree, the communication of that tree, is a very palpable, more present experience
Yeah.
to many than the subtleness of something inanimate.
That's why I wanted to give that example first, because trees have got thousands and thousands of years of wisdom. They've
Yes.
seen so much more than we, that even before our ancestors, they're like,
Wow. So while you're
they've seen
talking too,
something.
no, no, while you're talking also, it brings up this thought. My guys start talking to me also, and they're just
Go
saying
on.
about that thousands of years you're talking about. They're saying you have to recognize that trees and like agriculture in general, they're just saying that they share a brain in a sense. When
Yeah.
you look at
So
the root system, they show me the roots as a brain, and how new trees will come and trees will
yeah.
fall, but they all plug into the root system, right? And that is like, so that is like their version of the Akashic records. And this
Yeah.
is kind of like
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
we
I love
how we
that.
all have that collected. That's what they're showing me right now. And it's just like, even that is a vibration to tap into the Akashic records, or to tap into that collective memory. But yeah, that is just so profound that even when you can tap into the vibrations of a tree, you're in essence able to kind of really tap into the rich history that entire lineage has had.
Yeah. And I can get images of that from a tree.
Hmm.
And anybody can do that. Anybody can tap into the energy of the tree and
Yes.
receive an image. Like when I teach my mediumship,
Hmm.
that's one element that you can learn.
Hmm.
And anybody can do that. Anybody can ask the tree for a memory and you will see an image,
Right.
Um,
Right.
pretty amazing. And when you can see them, you can see the tree spirits as well.
Hmm.
Don't know if you ever see faces in trees. Well, No,
Yeah, I see in the bark
and
and all of that.
everything.
Yeah, definitely. I'll see faces in the leaves, and I will see the
Yeah,
leaves shift and form new faces.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
I will see faces change. Like I'll see an angry face transform into the happiest, goofy looking face, and it'll happen at a moment that really switches my own mood, where there's this almost a symmetry with my own vibration.
it's like giving you a message as well.
Yeah,
There's a message in everything.
out absolutely. Hey, Kelly Joe, welcome. Rachel Meadows, welcome, welcome.
Hey,
Uh,
hi Lisa. Oh, bless you.
uh, yeah, that's beautiful. I love that insight. So getting into the idea of the vibrations, you touched upon uh, your gift as an empath, right? And so
Mhm.
this also brings up, and I think we talked about this also. I bring up the tandem with telepathy, right? And I don't think we give it as much attention at this point in time in a lot of the spiritual and self-development and those type of communities,
Yeah,
holistic wellness communities. There was a time where we talked a lot more about telepathy, but we think of that more sci-fi-ish than we do as a spiritual gift. But we hear empathy a lot when we get into the more spiritual and the self-development. um, but very much it's been given to me, and I see it in my everyday life that they often work in tandem. A lot of empaths are kind of telepaths, and vice versa. Not everybody. There are many people who are telepaths and no connection to their empathic side, and vice versa. But there's that level of picking up on vibrations through our gifts, and if your gift is empathy, or as an empath, which is more than just empathy, like just the ability to just like kind of perceive another person's point of view and feel for them, that's just, yeah, you can empathize, everybody can do that. But then for people who identify as empaths, it's to a much more pronounced experience for them. And so with that, you're really tapping into vibrations big times through your empathic nature. But I think this also occurs through telepathic natures, right? And I feel like I know from my own experience, especially just even learning that I was an empath and what that
mm.
meant. Um, Realizing I live in New York City, and I just walking around and I'm picking
Oh,
up on vibrations everywhere, like, and
yeah,
just having my mood shift like that. Like, I swear, sometimes I think, this whole spirituality stuff has made me bipolar, because I'm
yeah.
just like, one moment I'm good,
Right.
I walk around some weird people, and then all of a sudden I'm like, it's a shitstorm in
Yeah,
my psyche. So,
yeah, yeah. I feel that. I feel that. You just want to lock yourself away from people sometimes.
oh yeah.
Everything. Yeah, I feel that.
I think that's why I'm often in hermit mode. A lot of people
Yeah.
here who know, be like, yo, what's going on today? Oh, yeah, I'm in hermit mode again.
Oh, but you have to for your own sanity. Like, I completely get that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think the more that you attune and use energy, the more you realize it, and the more you have to protect your own.
Hmm.
So that is one way I think of protecting your own when you go in hermit mode.
When you don't have what?
When you go in hermit mode is one way of
Yes,
protecting your own energy.
absolutely. Oh, that's a huge way of protecting your energy. That's a huge way of just recharging your energy and getting clear in your energy. I think, especially when we talk about vibrations and the fact that we can kind of pick up on vibrations everywhere, right? Because we've already talked about everything really emanating
Yeah.
vibrations. That means you walking around, you're kind of walking around, and I know I'm walking around in an energy soup, but that's kind of my spiritual gifts that
Yeah.
to me, I perceive everything like energy in that sense. But we're all walking around in this vibrational soup, so to speak,
Yeah.
where we're encountering everybody's personal little worlds and even these electronic devices, and they're just
Oh my
vibrations
god.
everywhere. And there's an importance for us to really be able to create that space to keep our own energy fields clear, and to really be in tune with ourselves and whom we are, because we can really absorb so many different vibrations
Yeah.
from everywhere else. We get lost as to what's our true vibration.
Yeah, like sometimes I've got to be careful because I can just walk past somebody in the street and kind of pick up what's going on with them.
Hmm. The
And
story and everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Not always. I think it depends on that person's frequency and that person's, because sometimes you just don't know what other people are doing. So, say if I'm on the train, I'll
Hmm.
always spot the spiritual person. Like sometimes you can tell anyway, but like the vibes tell you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just know, and then you can hear so much chatter because you're telepathic, and you can actually hear people. I can hear what's going on in people's minds.
Hmm.
And at one point, I had to come up with a way of not being able to do that. So
Yeah. I
I
was.
use. I don't know what you do. Whether you, when you go into hermit mode, that's probably your thing, and you probably do other things too. But
It's
for
one
me,
of them, but I'm curious to know what you do.
okay. So I use my guides. So my guide just protects me and doesn't shields me from that energy completely. So for that day, I just want a day where I don't feel anything.
Hmm.
I ask for that, and that's what I'll get.
Mm. So I have a friend, one of my friends, and she's one of my mentors. Really, I really admire her. And a lot of people, a lot of you all know her, Dawn Marie.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and
Beautiful.
she has a practice that I never thought of using in this application until I met her. But she says prayers of protection.
Yeah.
Now, the funny part of that is I have always seen prayers of protection as in like, protect me so that if I go outside, no trouble finds
Yeah.
me, I'm safe and sound in that kind of way. But it never connected with me until, working with her and talking with her and realizing like she'll say prayers of protection for
Yeah.
energy. Like we do these lives and we come on here and we connect with so many people and things of that nature. And she'll say a prayer of protection just so she can maintain her balance and not bring in anything. But or at the end of it, when it'll all be over, she'll say a prayer of protection to kind of cut it all off. Like
Yeah.
whereas
Makes sense.
yeah, and I never even thought about it that way before, that it could be used to that purpose, right? But it just goes to show, like, just like how I've always said, every spirituality is really individual based, and we all
Yeah.
have our own individual paths back to source. Um, any particular, we can all have all sorts of different practices to kind of effectively do the same thing, but it's what works for you. I never thought of that until I started seeing her using it that way, because I've never seen it that way.
Yeah.
But now that I do, I'm like, that is a very powerful approach
Cool.
to working on clearing out your own energy field and your own vibrational field. um
That's why I love these conversations, because somebody's going to walk away with something, you know, and that,
yes.
and like for me, I mean, I'm Christian anyway, so praying for me is a big deal anyway.
Hmm.
So that's something that I do anyway. So I think using my guides, I think that's just because I'm the medium in me and the
Hmm.
shamanic side of me as well. So
Hmm.
I use them. I use my guides for it.
Sure, that makes sense. um
Thanks, Kelly. Bye, darling.
Thank you for joining, Kelly Joe. Everybody, if you're still here, thank you for hanging out. Please feel free to share out if you know anybody who'll benefit from this conversation. It's evergreen stuff, so you can always share. It doesn't, even if not at this moment, because it's valuable information coming through. And just so you know, who is here, we'll be doing a little bit of a collective vibe check towards the end of our conversation here. So if you feel like hanging around, that's more incentive for you. um,
Has anybody asked a question? By the way, you can ask a question if you want to ask a question.
yes. So Ada, I see Ada said she's been in hermit mode for a month now because of the
Oh,
outside energy.
uh,
Absolutely. I don't blame you there. Like I think I've been in hermit mode since like the entire pandemic started. It's like it's like A better question, like it's instead of how long have you been in hermit mode, it's just like when were the moments that you came out of hermit mode?
Yeah, you know. Yeah, Lynn, I know you understand it too.
But I think hermit mode is definitely necessary. Another tool that I might use is I do bubbles of protection. Not
Yeah.
a prayer, but energetic bubbles of protection. I
Mhm.
tend to do that. One thing another thing besides the prayer of protections, this I learned from Abraham Hicks, and I just started applying it in this way. But she has a technique in her law of attraction teachings where she calls it segment intending. Now I don't know what if who knows what that is, but I'll break it down. It's kind of like just taking some space in between activities in your day, right? So like you
Mhm.
wake up in the morning, the first activity you're getting into, well, using myself for example, I may be taking my son to school. So before I start that process, I'll take whatever time I need, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 5 breaths or 5 minutes or
Yeah.
whatever, I'll take some time to clear out my space, get my energy right for that specific activity. So that way, then when I leave the room, I go out and interact with my son and start getting him ready to go. And I have the patience, I have the reserves to deal with the vibe, so to
Yeah.
speak, right? I have that energy. And then maybe when I'm done with that, I have to move on to some business meetings. So before the meetings, I'll take some time to clear my space. And so it's more intermittent process as you go throughout your day. As you shift from one thing, you just kind of take that space, clear out your energy so that you're clearing your own vibes. And then when you walk into the new situation, it's almost like you're refreshed and you have a clear sense about yourself, so you have a better sense about everything else that you're becoming involved in. Um,
So for me, sorry, before you carry on,
no, no,
for
no, I was
me,
pretty much
for
done.
me, the most important thing that stood out for me was how that's also good for your mind.
Mhm.
You know, so it's like it really, really, you have to slow down and break it down for your mind sometimes. Otherwise, you'll just be like on non-stop go all the time. So
Yes,
mindfulness practice is huge too. So that's why I like her. She's got good
yes,
things for the mind.
yes, yes, yes. It's also a great way to it's a really good way to, well, I guess you basically just said it. It's like,
Go on.
it's kind of redundant. That's kind of redundant, but yeah, I mean, it's just a kind of a just great way to refresh yourself, maintain your energy. Kind of, it is a great approach to mindfulness overall because I'm somebody who preaches and talks mindfulness all the time, and I mean, mindfulness is really it's a moment to moment effort. It's a consistent effort and a practice. And so like something like that, it falls right in line with developing a practice, an approach
Mhm.
towards this because you're consistently doing it. You're going to consistently take a moment, clear out your space, refresh yourself for the next experience. When you do that regularly, you're kind of cultivating a very healthy practice for yourself.
Yeah, I never used to do anything like that before until my awakening.
Hmm.
I never used to do anything like that. I mean, that goes hand in hand, doesn't it? Like, I didn't do anything like that to protect my energy, or I never really used to understand why do people have to protect energy,
Hmm.
because for me, because I work with spirit, so for me, it's not spirit that you need to be worried about. So why are you protecting your energy from spirit for? It's people you need to be worried about. They're the people you
Very
need to
true.
protect your energy from, you know? So it took me a while to actually like be like, wow, I don't need to protect my energy from spirit. Why do you?
Right. Yeah. I think that back to vibration
Yeah,
that comes with where people are vibrating at, right? If
yeah.
you're kind of in the lower vibrational realms,
Then
you're
you
going to
need to
be
protect
bumping into
yourself.
lower vibrational energies.
Yeah.
And you may find more reasons to
You
need
need
to
to protect
protect
yourself.
yourself. So Lynn is asking,
Ooh.
I have a question. If you find yourself in a toxic environment, is there anything to do to help you cope energetically as it's so difficult? That's I mean, a lot of the stuff we're talking about right now goes towards balancing and maintaining your energetic space within those situations. Um, the mindfulness, the segment attention approach, that is one approach. Uh, Prayers is a very empowering thing, practice to take on. I love meditation. I'm a big proponent of meditation because it feels very empowering to me. There are lots of things to do to help cope energetically
Yeah.
in difficult situations. I don't think it's just one. I
Yeah.
think it's important for you to just learn as many as you can,
Yeah.
and use the ones
What
that work
works
best
for
for you.
you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it all depends to me on what type of toxic situation, because there are many. So if you're talking about a work toxic situation, because I've been there quite a few times, like where you
Hmm.
can't exactly, I mean, you might feel like you want to walk out, but you can't exactly just walk out. So there's that, and you have to go in and face it every day.
Hmm.
And you might have to, and you have no choice. Like that's a toxic situation that you just can't. Because my first initial thing is to walk away.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's probably the most empowered things you can do in any
I
toxic
do that a lot.
situation is to
I do
leave.
that a lot. If I need to walk away, I'll walk away. But like
Hmm.
if it's a work situation and you can't walk away from it, then you're gonna have to learn these practices of what's gonna help you. Um, yeah.
I
You
will
spoke.
also add another practice that might be good. And again, you have to be mindful in your approach with these things. You want to pick and choose what's going to work best for you, especially at any given time. But expression, and using your throat chakra, using your voice. Sometimes you just got to go off and tell somebody off, or
Yeah.
sometimes you just got to have
Speaking
to
truth.
just speak your truth, and just actually say what it is, So and that's another practice and approach towards maintaining your own energy and energy within a toxic environment, because sometimes speaking your truth is the best way you can honor your own energy, and your will find your own body, your vessel will reward you and appreciate you for
Yeah.
that.
I'm a big one for speaking the truth, but
Hmm.
probably because I've come from situations where I couldn't speak my truth. So there
Yes.
are many where you can't, and you physically
Yes.
can't do that. But
Yeah.
again, when you can, that is one really good one.
Right. Which is
And
also why I said be
meditation,
mindful about it, because if it's
yeah,
like a physical threat, that it's like you got to know when to use certain. Sometimes it might be better to just let me just go sit down and meditate
yeah,
and not actually speak on this at this very moment. Who
yeah,
knows?
definitely. Yeah, work or family. I think family's one as well, isn't it? Because sometimes, certain family can be toxic too. And it's the same type of thing. But for me, I mean, I've had that scenario too, and I do seriously just not engage.
Mhm.
That's just my
Okay,
choice.
so what comes up for me, because I see Rachel add to that. I see Lynn said work or
Yeah,
family, and then Rachel's
yeah,
asking specifically family toxic situations, and what Spirit it just put in my heart. A lesson that I've been working with the last couple of weeks. Um, One form of love that doesn't get spoken about, which I'm making the effort to speak about it more and more. Um, it's just pure acceptance, right?
mhm,
And is this sense of being able to accept the other and their truth, regardless to whether you agree with it or not, but to accept them out of respect for their own sovereignty, as you'd
mm,
have them accept you and your truth out of respect for your own sovereignty, right? So it's a little bit of the golden rule involved in there, right? This do unto others. But the idea that acceptance is one of the ultimate acts of love, to accept a family member and their truth, even though family members can be some of the biggest triggers of our lives. Because
yep,
first of all, most of the people in our lives who trigger us are going to be those who are the closest to us. Granted, in this new internet age, there's trolls and all sorts of things online, but that's a little bit of a different thing. Um, but really, the people who really affect us, hurt us,
yeah,
impact us, those are closest to us. A lot of that will be family.
yeah,
And when it comes to family, the idea is that we always, um, not that we always have to, but the ideal would be that we always want to hold people in a space of love, right? As long as we can do that, it's not a situation. And If it comes down to the situation is toxic because there are just so many differences, those differences start to matter less and less when you can simply accept each other.
And
I
a big
accept
one,
you, and that'll
yeah,
be okay.
a big thing with that, because I think one of the softest forms of love that goes hand in hand with that is patience.
Yes.
Like, oh my God, I've learned so many lessons with patience that goes hand in hand with the divine timing thing. And, that's huge.
Yes.
With acceptance and patience, I think they go hand in hand.
Yes. Yes. When you can couple them together, that creates a very powerful force.
Yeah. And then what you're giving out, that's your frequency, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. Well, what you're giving out is, I mean, if you're giving out, those are
Acceptance.
vibrations, basically, right? And so that those vibrations that you give out, you can expect to be reflected back towards you at the same time, right? So, if you're in a space of acceptance and patience, I mean, that's giving off the pure vibration of love right
Yeah.
there. That's really going to kind of create a sense of space and ease that allows others to start to open up to offer you the same, or to offer you likewise. Not everybody will, or
No.
not everybody will on your pace or in the way that you would have it, but it's going to open up the door to allow them to start to do it.
And again, it's that idea of looking within rather than what externally is in the problem with them. It's, I can
Yes,
fix this by looking at me.
absolutely. Accepting the responsibility for your own experience. I won't even say actions. Because a lot of people talk about, accepting responsibility for their actions, accepting responsibility for your experience. Sometimes things happen in your experience that have nothing to do with your actions. I'm teaching this lesson to my son right now. Sometimes he'll walk into his room or whatever, and I don't know, like the wind could have knocked all his messy papers all over the floor. And I'm like, yo, clean up your room, clean up your space. And I didn't do it. I didn't do it. Listen,
Yeah.
I know you may not have done it, but this is your experience. That's
Yeah.
your space, right? You want to be able to have a space where you can play your games or do whatever. So you got to accept the responsibility for your experience, right? It's not just the action. Sometimes things happen, but it's still on you to correct it or to fix it.
Yeah.
So
I think
Deb asks a question also. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you gonna say?
No, I can't remember now.
Okay.
I was in the flow. It doesn't matter. If it's important, it'll come back.
Yes, that's what I always say. So Deb was asking, she would love to hear our thoughts or any advice to reduce the intensity of the full moon on
Oh,
the physical body.
geez.
I just heard water,
Yeah.
and I'm hearing not even water from a hydration place, but like bathing and cleansing
Cleansing.
and even swimming, just submerging yourself in water and really getting into the ebb and flow
I love that.
that the water takes on as the moon affects the earth's water body. I don't know how else to say it.
Or it's energetic field, I feel like, because that's at the moment intense.
Yes.
With everything with all the energies what are rising, the energy around the earth is like really, I can feel that so bad at the minute. And I know that coincides with the moon and the sea and so I feel you, Deb. Obviously what you put into your body as well. So there's the food aspect, but I'm also thinking about like the mind side of it. So that it's the meditation work, sitting meditation. It's focusing on the other things. It's a hard one for me because I get physical symptoms, and I've still got it now, like the pain. I don't know whether you get
from the
physical
full
symptoms.
moon.
Yeah. I don't always, but this one right now, I've still got it here. today, like in the neck. And last time I had it on the head to the point where I almost went to A&E.
Was there any?
I was like, no, this is too much. If it lasts one more day, I'm going to A&E.
I'm assuming that's like emergency room or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I feel you, but definitely water's really good advice.
Yeah, the spirit just gave that actually. Um,
Yeah.
if I was to answer that question, because I feel like the water came from the spirit depth, so take that with the extra like a little emphasis, because that didn't come from me. That wouldn't have been my first
Yeah.
answer. But for whatever reason that came through for your question.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with Pamela with what she's saying about the mental work,
Mm.
doing like shadow work, the things of these natures. Um,
Sometimes you've just got to sit through it and purge.
yeah, I was thinking about just remembering the cycles of the moon, just taking on like you.
Mm.
I see often people will have different moon circles, and it's the new moon and the full moon and this and that. And sometimes I'll dismiss it because there's just like so much of it. But
Yeah.
I think there is some real validity to it and taking on some of these practices, especially if you're feeling the intensities if you're feeling the energies intensely, then
There's a
then
mouthful for you.
yes, it might be a very good time to take on one of those full moon or new moon rituals, and
Yeah.
allow you to, whether it's like creating the list and burning it, or like really like refreshing your energy in that kind of way, I think could bring you some value as well.
Yeah, I've done that in the group a few times. That helps.
Hey, Michelle. Hi, Bridget.
Hi.
Yeah, they do help. They do help. So yeah, full moon. That's what I definitely feel.
Because
Water.
you do get vibes from the moon.
Big time. I think big time. I mean, they say the moon represents the subconscious realm especially when we look at astrology, right?
Yeah.
Where the sun is kind of the conscious realm with how we wish to be perceived. The moon is really the subconscious realm with what's going on underneath
What can be
within.
hidden. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Um, and then we get into the ascendants and all that other stuff. But with the moon in the subconscious realm, even if you look at the shamanic journey, right? We got the higher realm, the middle worlds, and then the lower worlds. Like the moon is really the embodiment of that in a sense, and that sense of the unknown. A lot of that unknown that we fear so much, where people fear death, which is why a lot of what's going on currently is going on, because there's just so much
Yeah.
collective fear being
Yeah.
pushed, and that's coming to the surface
Yeah.
to be cleared out. So many of us are facing our fears and being forced to face fears we never thought about. It's really dealing with these elements of the lower world or the subconscious realm, and so getting clear in that's back to the whole mental stuff. Getting clear in your own subconscious realm, whether it's shadow work and all that stuff, that's going to be probably one of the biggest things you can do to kind of brace yourself and get into the flow of what the energy is giving off,
Yeah.
with
One
what
of
the
the
moon is
biggest
giving off.
one of the biggest things what helped my own healing journey was going to the lower world in journey work for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to be ready for that, because stuff does come up. And if
Yes.
you're not ready, then you'll just, you'll know, and then you don't deal with it. But it's hard work, but boy, does it push you and excel you if
Yes.
you can just work on those aspects that we run away from, that's all the shadow is.
Right.
Sometimes I don't like saying the word shadow because it scares people off, but it's just the part of yourself that you don't like,
Yeah.
and you just got to learn to love it. And then when you do, that's where your light is. That's where
Yeah.
I found mine after my awakening.
See, yeah, there so much light comes out of the dark. I mean, in general, light comes forth from the dark,
Yes.
whether it
And they work
dispels
in
this
balance.
dark or not. Yeah, there's a back and forth in a sense. And so when we look at the shadow, not talking about just like the concept of darkness to be the representation of evil, but just looking at the shadow and recognizing that all things embody, all things that put off light also cast shadows. Um,
Yeah.
you know, if you're running from your shadow, you're missing out on a huge part of yourself and a huge part of your own light, your own sources of light, because once you start to come into and understand and do that work of understanding and processing your shadow, really when you transmute that, it's more light. It's just more
Beautiful.
of you and your truth.
It's beautiful. And it's getting over the fact that the shadow and the darkness is bad. Like,
Yeah,
that can be a huge thing just to get over to start with. And when you've done
right.
that, it's like, wow, that opens your eyes. Like, so what I
Absolutely.
was feeling is not bad. No,
Absolutely.
it's what you're feeling. And because society for so long has been told you can't feel this and you can't feel that and you can't, that's why we're in the mess that we're in. But it's slowly coming out. I'm seeing more and more people talking about feelings. And
Right.
that's all it is. All shadow is how you feel about something, and you've been
Mhm.
told you're not allowed to, you know,
Right. So
or
you get all this
or you've felt that
fear,
you
guilt
can't.
around it.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. It's just releasing that. That's all it is. But it sounds so easy. I know it's not that easy. I've done it myself. But when you
Well,
do,
yeah. It's simple. It's not, it may be simple, but not easy.
yeah, yeah, it's definitely not easy. But yeah, did
Yeah.
I say easy?
No, I know you.
No, I didn't say
You were
easy,
just
did I?
saying it may look easy, but it's not.
Yeah, no, it's not easy. It's hard work and it's painful, and you've just got to release a lot
Yes,
because
absolutely.
you can be releasing for years. Like I'm on my 5th year from my awakening, and I can still sometimes come across shit. Sorry,
Yeah. And
that
I think new shadows are created all the time as we go through our experience. So it's like a continual process. I think just like with the awakening experience, there's always newer levels and new stuff to
yeah,
awaken to. So that's another continual experience.
yeah,
Um, so I don't know if there's ever a time where in life where we become so complete and whole in ourselves that we no
no,
longer have any more kind of shadows to deal with, or no, like I don't think that really happens in physical life. I think we start to attain these things as we ascend higher. We're doing more beyond the veil, but I think in physical life it doesn't happen that often.
yeah. I think in that earthly bodies, in that earthly presence, we don't ever fully heal. There's no such thing.
Right, because that's part of what we're doing here. If
When
you were fully healed, you'd no longer need to be here.
like I've heard a few people say I'm healed, and I'm like, oh my god, I'm really happy for you, but it's actually bullshit. But if you're happy,
Right.
I'm happy, but it's not
Sure,
true.
sure. Well, there's always more to do. Life is a lifelong healing journey. That is absolutely right, Lynn. I couldn't agree more. Hi, Pam. Hey, Lisa.
Hi Pam, you all right, darling?
So another question that just popped up, and now it's gone like that. But we were talking about you were talking about the fear and the shadows, the unconscious realm, and it brought up the thought about the unknown. A lot of that being because it's the unknown, and that's like kind of the great cause of fear in our reality.
Yeah.
um the dark, we can't see in the dark, and it's like, that sense that you get as a kid. um when it comes to to vibes, do you ever find, or maybe how do you find your sense to discern vibration, how it helps inform you when you feel like you're traveling through maybe darker times or just traveling through the dark? Can we use vibrations as a tool to kind of help us navigate through the dark or these darkened experiences?
Oh my god, yeah. But for me, firstly, what jumps out when you say that is picking it up on the darker vibes. Sorry, that might not be what you were looking for, but that's just what jumped out to me. So
I'm looking for you to go
when
with
you,
what jumps.
because I can feel that I've kind of flipped that question, so I probably will
Yes.
come back to it in a minute. But so I can always feel, I don't know if it's the Scorpio side of me, because
Hmm.
I've got a lot of Scorpio. Like I'm never afraid of the dark. Even since I was little, I was never afraid of the dark. I used to walk around in the dark. So I'm kind of quite comfortable there.
Hmm.
So I think that just helps. And
Yeah.
um, for me, I don't know why this is, well, it's a part of one of my soul's purpose right now, is I can pick up on the darker elements in people straight away, more so than the light, because
Hmm.
that's my purpose, is to help people draw that out. Took
Mm,
me a while to get there and realize that, but
yes.
when things happen over and over and over and over again, you piece it together. So I can kind of draw out the person's shadow to help them.
Right.
So that's a tool. So it's kind of, the tool is the discernment.
Yes.
So
Okay.
it's because not everyone's ready to talk about it.
Sure.
So like using the discernment to try and help somebody realize it in themselves. That's kind of what I do daily.
So let
So
me
that's,
ask you,
go
because I
on.
know we you was thinking to go back to the previous question, but before you do that, um, with your gifts and your sense of perception, how would you describe the difference between um, darker vibrations and say lighter vibrations? Just to kind of offer some practical insight for those who's watching, what they may look for and for their own experience. Where none of us are the same, so your own experience is going to be different, but maybe Pamela has some insight that she could share with us.
Yeah, but not everyone's going to agree with me, and that's fine.
Okay.
Like everyone's got their own opinion.
Yeah,
For me,
sure.
obviously, like the darker energies are lower vibration, so you can feel the almost like sadness, grief, depending on what
Mm,
it is the person's going through.
mm.
Mine, I can always feel it attached to what the person's going through.
Is it always emotional? Because
That's what
you
jumps.
described emotions.
That's what jumps out first
Okay.
to me, is the
Do you
emotion.
even get do you even get like the emotions off of like trees and stuff?
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
yeah.
That's
Even
beautiful.
plants like flowers and like yeah. So that's what jumps out straight away, is
Hmm.
how they're feeling can show you the vibration, but you just feel it in the vibration. Like you'll know if someone, oh my god, that person's sad, because the vibration's lower. And if
Yeah.
someone's happy, obviously the vibration's higher. Happy is just an
Right.
easy example to give. So like
Sure. Sure.
if someone's grateful, if someone's feeling grateful, oh my god, that vibration's like really high.
Sure.
And then if someone's feeling miserable or upset or angry, that you can feel the difference straight away. And
Yeah.
even and when I teach people in mediumship to
Hmm.
pick up, because all it is energy, so you're
Right.
picking up on a spirit, and you do that first of all. How I teach that is by feeling. So how does that spirit feel?
Yeah.
And that's the first. It's the first thing that the guys that I work with anyway, they
Hmm.
they they love it. So it's the
Yeah.
first thing you can tap into is feeling, because
Right.
not everybody has the clairvoyance and the seeing and the other side of it. Not everyone can do
Sure.
that, but everyone can feel.
Right. Yeah.
So that's just something that I use, is feeling. I think
I
one of the
like that.
first things I said to you when I met you was, I live in my feelings.
That sounds
There you go.
vaguely familiar. That sounds vaguely familiar. No, I think that's a perfect interpretation. Honestly, I think it makes total sense in my mind. But I'm here doing this type of work with you.
Yeah.
Um, Another approach, I think, for me, I think with picking up vibrations. Uh, so like when you say feelings, what I hear actually is a distinction between the feeling of the other, whatever vibe, whatever vibes that's being put off that you're receiving, and then your own feeling,
Yeah.
right? So what am I getting? And then what am I feeling about what am I getting?
You don't even come into it.
So it's mostly just what am I getting, and the feeling that it creates is basically what you know you're getting from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gotcha. I think yeah, for me, for me it's very similar. I do get a lot of that, the feelings that's being put off on an energetic place, but I also get intentions. I will get
Yeah, yeah,
intentions and
yeah.
motivation behind things. But then I also will get my own feelings of things because um I don't know, it's part of my knowing, part of whatever, but like just my own um whether it's like something maybe negative or maybe that's not necessarily for me,
Yeah,
but it might not be negative. It could be
yeah.
something completely positive, but just not
Mhm.
the right thing for me. Then my own instincts and intuition, that sense of unease, that's like, I don't know, I don't get wrong with that, right? Like things like things like that. That would be another element that might come into play, and especially with even when we talk about the distinction between darker and lighter vibrations. I hate to put it like that because the whole
No.
dualistic thing or whatever, but the practicality of the way the mind works. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, like when I tap into a darker energy, whether it's the emotions of that thing or my own emotions, but something coming through that there's a negative emotion here that's like, this is not my preferred space, or this is, I feel that heaviness or sadness or whatever the case may be.
yeah,
So yeah, um, as well as the guides, the whispers, the all this other stuff.
yeah. There's a lot, isn't there, really? So you've got the your own intuition and your discernment, and then you've got
Uh-huh.
so the psychic side that kicks in, and then the
Uh-huh.
guides on top of that. So there's a lot really to work with and learn to work with.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah, it is. When you break it down into bits and pieces like that,
Yeah,
it sounds like a lot. When you walk through it, it's kind of like the brain is able to calculate super fast, like so many things in an average moment. Like, for example, you cross the street, you don't think about it. It's not something you got to really think about.
mhm.
But when you break it down as a math problem, there's all sorts of algebra, geometry, all sorts of things that's happening, right? This car is coming down here. It'll reach here at this point. Can I make it across before it reaches where I'm standing? Like there's all this, that these calculations that our brains are doing, we don't necessarily even think about
All the
until it's broken down.
vibrations.
Right, exactly. And this is what's happening. And so just like with what we do with the spiritual, with our gifts and all this stuff is just happening. It's not, we're not like actually like, okay, I'm tapping into this. Now we're gonna jump here. Now what do the guys say? Now let me jump to my psychic senses. It's not all of that. It just happens in like a flash, and you're like, oh,
Yeah,
I got all this information.
that's so true. Oh dear.
So Lisa says she can feel the energy when she walks into the room, good or bad.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's
yeah,
another perfect example, right?
yeah.
You can feel that energy when you walk into a dense room where people have been arguing and it's all tenuous and it's
Like,
like you can just
ooh.
cut it. You're like, oh, yeah, right. You just know. And it's totally different from when you walk into the room, it's happy go lucky, there's laughs, and the energy is very welcoming. Come on in, sit down, grab a drink. Like, the energy is always totally different. So that's a beautiful example, Lisa. Lynn says she's working on getting better at discernment. Yes, which is a big part of what we're talking about here, being able to discern vibrations. I used
Yeah.
to be
I used to
Finding
be like
Nemo.
Nemo, the big scary fish with the light. I would see the light and not realise there was a killer fish. Oh wow, yeah, because because you're so high vibe as well, though, Lynn. Like, and you always see the best in people as well. That's why, and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. That's beautiful.
I think those are opportunities that really help you to
Yeah,
develop that sense
to grow.
of discernment and that ability to be Vaishu. Yay! Hi, welcome. Um, but Lynn, yeah, I think going through those moments and learning those lessons really add to the discernment to make you a much just more profound interpreter of the vibes that you
Yeah,
encounter. But the discernment is a huge part in vibrations because everything is giving off vibrations, and if we're not mindfully discerning, we're picking up vibrations and not reacting to things and not really knowing why or what for, or we're reacting, misinterpreting information, reacting in ways that may not be, it's like, were you even present to the vibes that was happening in your experience? Like, did you not pick any of that subtext up? These are also part of this other underlining layer of language, right? Where we got actual words and vocabulary, but we learn all, even in school, there's different ways of communication. There's subtext, there's body language, there's voice and tone inclinations and all of that other stuff. These are all like aspects that add to um vibes and vibrations, in a sense, that all just kind of, if everything is multi-layered in a sense, in this multi-dimensional reality. So when you're sensitive enough and you care enough about your own sensitivities and that what you're experiencing, you're picking up on all these little things when you're living.
Yeah, it's so true. But discernment's your ability to be able to recognize and understand everything, and the choice that you make afterwards as a result of that. And it
Yes.
just comes with experience. We all have those ones where we think, shit, I should have listened and done that and done that. And,
Yes. Absolutely, those experiences of regret and this and that.
that's how you learn though. You learn.
Hmm. So Lynn says she does always look for the light, very forgiving.
I know you are, darling. Yeah, you are.
It's beautiful. Forgiveness and trust. I mean, do not allow those things to be beat out of you just because of some
She won't.
bad experiences, because those are beautiful, admirable traits. We just want to continue to get better with our discernment. So hopefully we don't get bit more in the future, right?
Yeah, like Lynn's just said that she used to dismiss it before. I know, and we've all been there.
Oh, I think
sometimes
yeah,
when
yeah.
was meant
We
to
all
warn
used to
me,
dismiss
and then
it.
I'd just miss it. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what. Yeah,
yeah,
been
yeah, yeah.
there.
Absolutely. I used to dismiss, and I think this ties back to what Pamela was talking about in the very beginning of this live, where you was talking about really trusting yourself, in a sense, and um, I think you was also talking about how it's a lot like a muscle, and the more we're able to even trust ourselves, trust our intuition, trust our ability to discern, trust our vibes, the stronger they get, the better we get at that process, the better we get at discerning things, at being able to interpret the energies and move accordingly. So
And then the more you listen, the more you hear.
yes, absolutely. And so definitely these experiences that hurt sometimes, but help us teach those lessons are good. um to get clear in that these conversations are good to kind of reinforce some of these ideas and such. Definitely learn some lessons around discernment and realizing not everyone has the same level as others
Oh my
of
God, yeah,
integrity.
that's a big
Yeah,
one.
integrity. I that's a beautiful thought.
Yeah, that's a biggie.
I think we can feel those, the like that's why I said when I talked about intentions, when I can kind of feel intentions behind certain things with certain people, and it really comes down to like that sense of integrity. Like sometimes people just don't have that, or don't have that with
Mm.
certain things, or you could just find that they may not necessarily be as aligned with the idea of integrity, or as trying to maintain that in their own objectives. And so um back to the whole discernment thing, being able to discern when that integrity is not there is super important.
I think it plays a part as well because you have integrity. So you can then see that or not in others,
Mm,
like that mirror thing. Like
yeah,
you'll know if it's there or not. That
yeah,
person does it, that person doesn't, for whatever reason, with no judgment, but it's there or it's not there
right.
because you've got it, so that helps. That plays a part.
Yeah, yeah. But then that also leads to what to some of what Lynn was talking about with being very trusting and forgiving, and maybe when we're not being as discerning, or when we haven't really learned to discern as
Yeah.
effectively, we kind of start to fall prey for those traps, just seeking that resonance of trust and forgiveness in somebody else, or seeking that resonance of integrity in somebody else. We can start to almost self-deceive to the point where we're just like, yeah, I believe everybody's as, has as much integrity, or is as trusting or forgiving.
Yeah. And then after that, when you realize whether you could or you couldn't or whatever, then you have to forgive yourself,
Yes.
because you end up in that cycle of, not being very nice to yourself, which, we don't want to go there.
Right. So Vaishu says that, talking of forgiveness, I just had to highlight this comment because I'm like,
Yeah.
forgiveness. She's working on forgiveness and trust and compassion.
Even those who've wronged me, yeah. I'm moving forward with peace, yeah. Yeah. Like you were talking
It
about
is
the
a challenging
acceptance
lesson.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The acceptance
And
and
forgiveness, it's a
patience.
thing.
Yeah. Acceptance plays a huge role in forgiveness. I often will teach acceptance um as an entry point to forgiveness as well, because sometimes you people can't just get to forgiveness.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to have an experience that really taught me the value of forgiveness when I was younger, and it taught me it's in such a profound way that whenever I feel the need to forgive, I'm able to do the work and get there now. But there was a time where I was very, very much like, I can't forgive people. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Like, you're a sucker if you're walking around forgiving people, because in my mind that equated to allowing the wrong that was done to me to have been done. In my mind, it equated to being walked all over and all of this stuff. So sometimes people can't just jump to forgiveness, in which case I often will teach or counsel, like, sometimes it's better to just start with acceptance,
Yeah.
to just start with, this is something that happened. I lived through this, and I have to accept the fact that I lived through this,
Yeah.
and figure out how to
And
start
it's
moving
okay.
forward. Right, exactly. And then from that space, once they fully integrated the acceptance of it all, they can start to work slowly on the forgiveness, whether it's forgiving others or even forgiving themselves. Because a lot of times when we talk of forgiveness, a lot of the forgiveness that we have to do is
So,
forgiveness of ourselves.
yeah, that's
A
huge.
lot of times, maybe even more than forgiveness of the others,
Yeah.
because we'll beat ourselves up to high hell for
Yeah.
even allowing ourselves to get in that situation.
Yeah.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
the situation was that person was beating us to low hell, right? They were
Yeah.
beating us up for real, and we're beating ourselves up because we like, how could I have let myself get in that place,
And
right?
it's
And
like, why
so,
did I see that coming?
right, and so in that situation, it is probably much more important to forgive yourself before you even come around to saying, I need to forgive that person, right? um, but forgiveness is just so important all around.
If you can get to self forgiveness, you've gone pretty far in your healing journey.
Yes. But this also brings up another thought when we get on this topic with vibrations, because um, we talked about trust and forgiveness. We talked about integrity. Um, Back to forgiveness again. This thought of those who maybe have not, maybe they haven't done their forgiveness practices. Maybe they haven't worked with their shadows. Maybe they haven't done all of this stuff. How can that affect people in their sense to discern vibrations? Because what's coming to me right now is that, can the unhealed person interpret vibration clearly?
Clearly is a different
Mm.
question.
They may be able to
Um,
interpret, but is it
yeah.
clear? Because if you have biases, if you have hurt and pains.
You're unhealed, no. That's why sometimes you see a lot of unhealed spiritual practitioners. I don't, yeah, that one just hurts me to even
Mhm.
say. But you can't see it clearly because you
Hi,
don't. I mean,
Becky. Jeremy. Sorry, go ahead.
It's all right. Just shout over my conversation.
I'm sorry, I'm listening. Go ahead, please.
I'm joking. So yeah, I don't think. I think if it depends on what area you're unhealed in, but I don't think you can see it clearly.
Yeah. I feel like, there's something to be said there though, because not like I before we even started this conversation, I had not had these trains of thoughts, but what's coming up now is that um yeah, this brings me back to how you shared about the process and the process of interpreting vibrations, not
Vibes.
just picking up vibrations, but then also interpreting vibrations, because the unhealed person has the potential to interpret vibrations in a
Incorrectly.
way incorrectly, yes, in a way that does not serve them, and in a way that can actually harm them or create more negative in their life than what they may desire. And so this brings back the importance of that whole mindfulness, right? And that whole
Mm-hmm.
sense of even just doing the work to kind of get clear in our own energy, to kind of get clear in our own truths, and to kind of get clear in whom we are, so that way once we are encountering these various vibrations, we know where we stand in association to them, as
Yeah.
opposed and not necessarily taking them for our truth or misinterpreting them in some way, or just not really seeing them with clarity, because
Yeah.
it feels like that's a trap or a pitfall that can lead to some serious pain.
Yeah. Oh my God. And you're already in pain, probably even without
Yeah,
even realizing it. So going back to before my awakening, when I was completely lost, like I couldn't feel my intuition properly. Like you think you don't even really know what your intuition is when you're in a state like that, you know. So like
right.
5 years ago, I couldn't even tell the difference
Well, yeah,
between what my intuition was telling me, what I was feeling, what was because I was just in a bad way,
yeah,
you know. And I think if you're in a bad way and you need healing yourself, there's no way your intuition's going to talk to you clearly, let alone get into
right,
discernment. You can't even
right,
get to discernment because your intuition's not off, like it's off.
right. Yeah. And so your
Obviously, it
vibes could
depends,
be
but
so off, can be so off.
yeah, mine was. Mine was. So I know that it happens to other people. And I know that because I work with other people who are in the same position. So I know that, and it's a process getting it back as
Yeah,
well, you
absolutely.
know?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, so they're just showing me a bunch of different examples. They keep bringing up my own examples in
Yeah.
my own life of how, like, you know, there's you can look at this in your own mindset, where you can be in a really funky mindset and just interpret something. Everything that comes across your desk is the worst thing in the world because you're just in a really negative mindset. But the same thing with just energy and vibrations, how um I have a disability, and I have health complications, and so I've had times in my life where I've needed help for a certain reason, but because I was
Mm,
so in a negative space, that those who were really helping me from places of love and really trying to support me, I couldn't see that.
yeah.
I could only resist and push them away, because the only vibes I was getting was pity and
Yeah.
I was beating myself up so bad and having so much loathing for self, and just an attack on my own self-worth. I couldn't appreciate when
Can't
I had people who
recognize
was trying to give me love. I couldn't even pick up on the vibes of love. All I could see
yeah.
was like, you just pitying me and da da da, and I don't need that. And so I was doing myself a disservice because I was in such a negative place.
Because
And
you were in pain,
yeah, yeah,
emotional and physical, which is probably the worst both together.
yeah. So these things totally will affect your interpretation of
Yeah.
vibration. And I feel like it's very important for us to highlight that,
Very.
so that, again, back to the idea of mindfulness, if you're being mindful about where you're at any given time, whether you're in a good space or in a negative space, recognize how that's going to influence the way you perceive
Yeah.
vibrations.
Oh my God. That's what started off my whole energy check. Like, I used to say to the people who are in my group, like, every day, just check yourself. How am I feeling? And what's going on? Just that 5 minutes can change your whole day.
Absolutely.
It's a bit like wake up and say the gratitude, what you're so grateful for, but it's different because you're focusing on self and how you're feeling in that moment. Because when you recognize it, you can change it
Yeah.
rather than walking around like a zombie or walking around pretending you're okay or just hoping that you're okay. There's so many different
Right.
variants, but you can change it once you recognize it.
Yes. Yes. So much. You're so much more empowered when we come into awareness of things. Hey, Kellyanne, we're here chatting about vibration, sharing our insights and experiences, and just hanging out a little bit. I think we're going to do a little bit of a collective vibe check. You still up for the vibe check, Pamela? All right,
I'm
so we're going to
ready.
do a little bit of a collective vibe check for everybody who's on the stream and whoever tunes in. Um, but thank you all who've come out, who've hung out with us today and joined in the conversation. Pamela, I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I think we should probably wrap things up so that we can do our vibe check and get out of here before your kids start starving or something like that. I know it's like dinner time for y'all.
She already snuck past the video.
I saw somebody
Like, go
sneaking in
away,
the back over there.
go away. Bless her. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you all for listening, and thank you for having me, Zay. Before we wrap,
No,
I'm going to follow your lead.
sure. So, well, okay. Ada says sometimes I forget.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Beautiful. That's smart.
Yeah.
Kelly was saying that sometimes she has energy running up her back. Feels like she's a mystic. I can't. Maybe you are a mystic. Maybe you have
Yeah.
figured it out, and you're busy just questioning it. And
Don't
so
fight it. Don't fight it.
maybe you're just a mystic. That's what it is. You have figured it out. Well, this also comes back to what we were talking about with the just trusting the intuition,
Yeah.
trusting what you're getting. When you're in that mindful space. And Kelly, I know you're constantly doing your work for your own self to kind of just be your best self and everything like that. Um, but I think, in a mindful space, if you're talking about just the energy you're connecting to when it runs up your back and you're feeling certain ways, I think you're mindful enough that you can really tap in and feel the vibration for yourself and recognize whether that's something you want more of or something you want to turn off. But chances are, it sounds like you figured it out. Yeah, and you're just kind of second guessing it.
Yeah, Melanie said it could be Kundalini energy. It could. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. But I also feel that people who are experiencing Kundalini energies are probably mystic.
Well, yeah.
Like if you're tapping into your Kundalini, you're kind of a mystic. You don't even need to call yourself a mystic, but you're doing something
I
mystical.
think I think what she means there could be other things going on too.
Yeah. Well, the Kundalini moving. I mean, as an energy worker, as an energy channel, I'm all about Kundalini movement. I'm all about energy movement, understanding and discerning that. But yeah, if you're that sensitive that you can even feel energy moving in your
Yeah.
vessel, then that says a lot right there.
Thank you, Julia. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Lan. I'm glad you've enjoyed. Bridget, good to see you. Melanie, yes. Kundalini, absolutely.
Feels weird, like a mistake. I think you need to accept it, darling. There's the acceptance.
Yeah.
Acceptance of self as a mystic.
Oh, Mystique. She feels like
Oh,
the blue lady from that movie, Mystique. I got
I
you.
don't know it.
Okay. You feel like your skin is like transforming. You may in fact be
Oh,
transforming, and it's still maybe Kundalini energy moving through you.
that's interesting. That's interesting. I like that. You're welcome,
Particu-
Lisa,
pa-
darling.
Particularly up the back, up the spine.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so let's take a couple moments, clear out the energy, and maybe do a little bit of a connecting with ourselves, and then maybe just tap into what we are feeling for the collective at this point in time on the 20th, which is the day of the full moon. So I guess this it's kind of apropos that we're doing this
Yeah, it's cool. On the full moon.
on the full moon. Yeah, absolutely. So at this time, we invite you all to just take a few breaths along with us. Allow yourselves to clear your energy and just relax, fall into an easy space. So I'm just going to ring the gong one more time, let the energy settle. And then whenever you're ready, Pamela, you can feel free to step forth.
See, what I'm feeling is that big release. Like, I feel like everybody needs a big release. So just take that deep breath right now. And I think that acceptance message was huge. And I want to just focus on that for a minute and just think about how that can be applied to you right now, in this moment, in whatever's going on. Spirit are just saying, allow whatever it is that's coming to the surface. Don't feel like there's this instinct to push it down. Ignore it. Don't do that. Allow it to come up. Just sit with it, and whatever it is, it's a bit like when we were talking about the shadow aspect. Whatever it is, just allow it, feel it, and then let it go. With that release, let it go. I feel like there's some work for a lot of us still. I mean, there always is, but then both they're focusing on that, allowing yourself to be yourself, speaking your truth if you can. Like, I do feel like there's this, it's almost in the sacral chakra that just needs shifting. So just allow yourself to feel it, allow it to come up. Sea la calca, su, sea, mega sea, la lulu, sea. Sia, la lulu, sia, lusu, sia, kia. Sorry, there's a bit of soul language wanting to come up and just give you that bit of a release. I feel like there's some in the cycle that needs shifting. So just allow it, just breathe. Okay. That's me done.
And so I'm going to step forward with my message at this time. So while Pamela was talking, what I've been experiencing, which Pamela got into at the end of her message, is all of this tension in the solar plexus. And I'm going to echo a second message that came through in this live today. The acceptance is very important. Also, the trust in yourself, the trust in your intuition, the trust in your own authenticity.
Yeah.
So what's been coming up is this message that the collective, especially at this current time, is in such a state where a lot of the fears, collective fears, have been being pushed to the surface, whether by the media, by things going on in the culture, to kind of be worked through, to kind of be released from for so long when we have been repressing and pushing this stuff down. We've kind of been pushing this stuff down into our sacral, is what it feels like. And so there's this sense of a collective distrust in ourselves.
Mm.
We've become so compliant with those in power, with the society structures, to kind of create the spaces that we need, that when we start to see things crumble or things look out of alignment, it's creating this sense of panicking us, because it's creating more of the unknown, where the systems that were in place seem so secure before. Things feel much more unknown when things are shaking and crumbling around us. And so that this time, this message is coming through about becoming reacquainted with yourself, with your authentic self, with owning your own sovereignty and your own authority, coming back to that space where you can trust yourself again as the primary authority for your own life, and allowing your sense of discernment to develop, that ability to connect and resonate with others, that ability to sense vibrations and find where you truly belong, as opposed to allowing society to create structures where you're supposed to be safe. It's now time that spirit, that the divine is inviting us back towards ourselves and towards our own truth and heart and alignment. And that starts with coming back towards trusting our own instincts and our own intuitions, and owning our authority again, to be the sovereign rulers of our own experience. So I've been doing some work to release that tension and anxiety within the solar plexus. And I'm going to bring forward some of my own soul speak, because it's just feeling needed at this time. So Eanai awatai awanatia. Oh, ania ya wayatai akawania ya. Ia watua ya natai. Ia natal ala sakai zai azunai. Shua isaka o aiata yenatua ya wanaya. Shawadana yata yawaka yala warana ya. Suaya ya nawaya ya wayata. It's time to come back into alignment with ourselves, and through alignment with ourselves and our authentic truth, realign with source and the divine. This is the opportunity where we get to shed and shake loose our fears of the unknown, to become known to ourselves again in truth. It's time to come home, y'all.
Amen.
That is the collective message.
Amen. Really felt that.
That was beautiful. Yeah. I feel a lot of shift in my own sacral. I feel like I've been doing sit-ups right now, in all honesty.
Yeah. As you were doing your soul speak, I was like moving it at the same time. Love that.
Oh, beautiful. Hi, Gabrielle. Hi, Samantha. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today on this live, this first installment of my new Soul Seeker series. Pamela, I want to thank you
Exciting.
for being just my first featured guest, the
Thank you.
amazing Pamela Carter. I will be sharing your details. Be sure to check her out. She has amazing stuff going on. This Saturday,
Oh,
she's
yeah.
having the white. Can you break it down for us? Because basically, it's an amazing online festival. I will be featured in it. I will be doing live readings and healings with my brother Jimmy Davy of Alpha Aura Healing. She's got a whole lineup going on this Saturday. You have to check out the White Feather Reiki and Healing Arts page. Pamela, please tell them a little bit more about the event because I'm super excited. Saturday is going to be action packed. I promise you all.
I mean, it's a crazy day because it's from 10 o'clock till 7 o'clock, like a whole day of healings, messages, spirit past loved ones coming through. Like, what I'll do is I'll share the group where
Yes.
the actual festival is held. I'll share that for everybody, whoever wants to come along. It's all free. You know,
Yes.
my guides, when I first started this journey last year, they wanted it all to be free. So that's what it is. So come along and check us out. It's going to be amazing. Thank you, Dave,
Beautiful.
for having me on your first
Yes.
episode, which I will be watching all the episodes after.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Yeah. This is going to live on my YouTube for quite a while. So be sure anybody who has not been able to check it out or who's popping in late, you can catch it again over on my
Yeah.
YouTube
Watch
page
the
or,
replay.
huh?
Watch the replay.
Yes, please feel free. You're always welcome. Continue to share because I think so much powerful information came through. So I feel like
Yeah.
this will be
Great
real
message.
valuable for everybody. And yeah, this was great, Pamela. I had such a good time just chopping it up with you. We
Loved
went into
it.
some great conversations.
I loved it.
Yes.
Thank
So
you. Thank you, everyone.
so much more to come. Love you all. Peace and blessings. Ciao.